Sync to. Good. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So I'm impressed by the Christmas regalia so far. I think I can see Susan and Maria and Scott. Scott's got #1 at the moment, but there's still time. If at any point during the call you want to dip out and get some Christmas regalia, Donald Farmer, I see you. Neil Martin, I see you. Yep. Awesome stuff. Awesome stuff. Right, guys, this is excellent. I'm going to put my screen share on in just a second to make sure that you guys can all see what's going on. But I hope everyone is safe and well and doesn't have anything else to do after this meeting today. For those of us in the UK, anyway, I hope so. Well, yep, Websy, I can see your answer already. Andrew, yep. Brilliant. And for those that are starting their day, you're just as welcome too. This is a fantastic turnout, guys. I do have to say that we reached over 170 pre-registrations for this meeting. So we're really impressed that looks like we're coming up to 60 participants as well. So we'll very soon get the meeting kicked off. Let me pop my screen share up just now. Can someone please confirm for me that you can see my screen okay? Excellent.
Yes, yep.
Excellent, thank you. All right. So we're just about to tick over to 3:05, guys. So I think we're belatedly going to get started. Welcome to QVMS episode 15, the Christmas big one. The Christmas big one with our 7 stars. Who we're going to get. We've got a lot to cover. This meeting's going to be a little bit longer today. We usually run for an hour and a half. It's going to be pretty much 2 hours, I reckon, by the time we get all of the amazing content in that we've got today and all the incredible presenters. As you can see, Mike Capone, Donald Farmer, Scott Taylor, Nick Webster, Joe Warbington, Rob O'Neill and Susan Walsh. You'll get a chance to meet them all during the course of this session, which is fantastic. So thank you all for being here. So just a quick few words from us, really. I'm Brian Boudin. I'm a Qlik Luminary and one of the co-founders of QVMS. I'm just so happy to be here after 14 episodes, and it's been a pleasure to work with George and Andrew. And that's really all I have to say right now. So I'd like to flip over to George to say hello to everyone in the room. And over to you, George.
Hello, everybody. I genuinely cannot believe that we are finally here. It feels like we've been planning this for months. And to top all that off, in the last 3 or 4 days, I've hardly been able to think about this because I've been trying to submit a tender, which finally got submitted at 1 o'clock. So I am properly in Christmas mode now. We've had a quick rehearsal, had a few quick rehearsals actually. I can't wait to get started. Before I blabber on too much, I'm going to hand over to Andrew.
Thanks, George. Yeah, awesome event. Some great speakers lined up. I think we've met most of them this year. I think that the key takeaway from this is this has been a bad year for the economy in the world, but some of us have obviously managed to survive the COVID crisis, hopefully with families and friends. So let's all look forward to 2021. And I think the key takeaway is it's going to be a positive event and a positive year coming up. That's the fingers crossed. That's the takeaway from this.
A better year, yeah.
It must be a better year coming up. It has to be. But we're going to finish it with a bang from a QVMS perspective anyway. So thank you guys. It's been an absolute pleasure to work on this with you over the last 8 months. And this is a culmination of a lot of work. So thank you for all your efforts, guys. Much appreciated. Okay, so on to the real business. Now we have 7 presenters and we have 7 prizes, okay? So we are streaming on LinkedIn and Twitter and Facebook. but the golden rule is here that you need to have pre-registered to have a chance to win the prizes. We won't be accepting entries or numbers from LinkedIn or from Twitter or from Facebook. You have to be on the Zoom call. So if you've pre-registered, you're in with a chance. Each presenter is going to pick a number between 1 and the number that Carolyn gives us from the amount of registrations. And sadly, QVMS presenters are not eligible. I mean, boo indeed, boo indeed. But you know, on the plus side, we have lots of amazing gifts and lots of amazing things that we hope to give away. So thank you very kindly to all of our presenters for donating something. It makes a huge difference to the show, and we probably pulled in a few people that we might not have before. So excellent stuff. Thank you, guys. So as I mentioned, we are running on some new tech today. We are restreaming our feed. So I don't know if any of you guys have the capability to check LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter for us, but hopefully we are streaming on about a 10-second delay on those platforms, which is quite exciting. It's a bit new for us, so if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, well, that'll be a lesson learned and something to research over Christmas. So we're very happy to be in between these platforms too. Sorry?
I'm looking at LinkedIn now, you're definitely there.
Excellent. That is good to see. That is good to see. Not physically, but yes. So we have a lot to get through, and I know, Mr. Capone, you're on a bit of a time limit this morning, so we thought we'd get you on. And I just really want to say it's Mike Capone, it's the CEO of Qlik. We're delighted to have live on the call with us. I'll just pop it very quickly to George and Andrew to say hello as well. And Mike, we'll hand it over to you to give us a few thoughts on how you feel 2020 has gone and what you see for Qlik yourself and anything else in 2021 as well. George?
Mike, thank you so much for being our star guest today. I'm interested to hear what you've got to say about 2020. For my part, 2020 was different. I think it tested a lot of us, and it's given us a lot of opportunity to adapt. And I think in a lot of ways, I'm not going to look back in 2020 as a bad year. It's just been a different year with a whole lot of opportunities. Andrew, hand over to you quickly, and then
okay. Thanks, George. Obviously thanks to Mike for volunteering his time. This is obviously a unique year, and it's also been a unique year for Qlik. There's lots of really good stories hopefully Mike's going to share with us in the next few minutes. So yeah, going to hand over back to Brian and Mike.
Excellent, great, thank you. And I'm glad that you took down the slides and gave full screen. So first, let me say, I know everyone went with the holiday theme, and I was supposed to, put some garland on or a Christmas hat on, but I didn't. But I did have something in my closet that I wanted to wear that I don't get much use out of. So this is my claymore that my old boss gave me from my last Scottish party. So I've been watching like 3 seasons of Outlander to get ready for this meeting. So I don't know if everybody can see it, but it's the official garb. So I went all in. Not Christmas, but hey, it is Scottish. Look, Brian, George, Andrew, thank you. Thank you for putting this together. Thank you for inviting me. This is an illustrious group. I'm a little intimidated here looking at all the other presenters. I wasn't expecting such a star-packed lineup. I would have brought a bigger game. But really, I just want to speak from the heart. You guys asked me to just talk about 2020 and then maybe looking forward to 2021. So I'll be pretty brief because I know you have a lot to get through. And I do have a board meeting after this. I may have to change my shirt before the board meeting. Look, 2020 was a hard year for sure. There's no doubt. But it is also, as you've all kind of put very eloquently, it's been a reaffirming year for us at Qlik. It's actually been a very strong year for us. And it's been a strong year because of our community, because of all of you. In a year like this, that's when your partnerships, when your relationship with your customers, when your community, which you guys are all our community, really, really come together. And let's face it, this is a harder year to source new customers. It just is. People tend to lean on existing relationships. The good news for Qlik is our customers really leaned on us. So despite all the economic turmoil and headwinds, we've actually had a pretty good year. Our ARR, our recurring revenue, is going to grow 20% this year, which is saying something in a year like this. This is not just a Luminary event, so there's a lot. It's a bigger community, so we're not under NDA. So I can't say too much about the financials, But I will say that, and I'll also say that our customer retention remains at 93%. So we really haven't gone backwards this year, despite all the headaches. And literally just yesterday, we signed a multi-year renewal enterprise license agreement with Airbus. If there was ever a company that's been impacted adversely by the pandemic, it's been Airbus. But what they've said, and what a lot of our customers said, is that never in their lifetime has analytics become more important, right? Because the world has changed. The patterns, the data, the things that you looked at previously to run your business, to make decisions, a lot of them don't apply anymore based on the new world we're all living in. And yes, it'll get back to normal at some point, but buying patterns have changed, travel patterns have changed, consumer decision-making has changed, and you need analytics. Companies need analytics to get through this. So we've seen some really amazing partnerships over the last year as we work with our customers to get to help them face the new reality of the future. So the most important thing I could say on this this event is thank you. There's never a bad time to say thank you to the community and to our customers, but heading into the holidays of a year that's been incredibly challenging for all of us, I have to just say, I cannot tell you how much the Qlik community means to us and to me personally. You guys are amazing. And, you know, Brian, George, and Andrew, I don't know what to say other than you guys are a powerhouse. Like, you dominate social media. You do lots and lots to help Qlik and magnify our brand. And we're so proud to have you guys in our family. It means a great deal to us. Looking into 2021, you know, I'll just wrap up and say, yes, we expect it to be a better year. You think you all know our vision. One thing the pandemic has done is it's put more emphasis on cloud. You know, customers are saying, look, I have to go faster. I don't have as much time and energy to invest in hosting my own infrastructure and standing servers up. We need a path to get to time to value faster. And we're helping customers do that. That doesn't mean that we're going to do anything to abandon our Qlik Sense and Qlik View customers. I think everybody's seen our reaffirmation. All our innovation that's going to the cloud is being downported into our premise-based applications, and it'll continue that way. That is our commitment to all of you. And the last thing I'll say, all you analytics folks, is you have never been more important to your organizations than you are right now. This is our moment. This is all of your moment. The world is fundamentally changed, and data and analytics, machine learning, AI, these are all things that are going to help us navigate, help our customers navigate. And for Qlik and our commitment to social responsibility, you know, we're helping the world navigate. We're working with the Asian Development Bank right now on vaccine algorithm analytics. There are poorer countries out there, not Australia, not Singapore, but Indonesia, places like that it's just not that simple. It's not that simple to put together plans to figure out how to vaccinate an entire population. Well, as you would expect, Qlik is there, partnering with organizations like that to help get us through this pandemic and finally win the war that we've been waging for the last year and a half. So I know a lot of you value and respect Qlik for our commitment to social responsibility has never been stronger than it is today. So that's it. I know you got a full agenda. I want to say thank you for having me, and I really appreciate it. And I wish you all a great meeting and a healthy and happy holiday season.
Thank you so much, Mike. Boys, do one of you want to maybe take this opportunity to give Mike a little question? Andrew, I know.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, thanks, Mike. Thanks for your presentation. Yeah, if you don't mind, I've got two questions. One's personal and one's Qlik related. To put you on the spot, what can you think is the biggest strength of Qlik as a company and as an organization? What do you get as the value of Qlik? And on a personal level, do you enjoy reading books, and can you recommend any good books for the audience to read over Christmas?
Wow. So let's start. You know, the strength of Qlik. This is what we do, right? Like, so we are analytics focused, and you know, if you walk the halls of Qlik, some of you know this. Some of you are ex-Qlik people, right? So you know this. You know, people they're really connected. Like, they really value the mission, and they just really care. They care about the brand, they care about the product, and they care about the world. And I don't my two biggest competitors being Salesforce and Microsoft. Nothing against those guys, but it's just a different mentality. It's just a different model. We're the last analytics provider at scale now out there, and we like that. So that is the strength. It's always been our people. And, I just literally celebrated a couple of 20-year anniversaries of some folks, which is pretty impressive. I mean, the company hasn't been around for much more than 20 years. So that'll give you a clue as to how loyal people are. On the book front, I have to admit, like I read so much. I have to read so much business stuff and so much board materials and so many boring P&Ls that when I read absolutely guilty pleasure books. I read spy novels. I read mystery books and things like that. And I haven't read it yet, but those of you know the author Lee Child, he's my favorite author. All the Jack Reacher books. And as soon as I'm on Amazon, I get signed up for all those books. And once I close this year, that's the first thing I do is read that book.
Good stuff. Thanks, Mike. George, have you got a question for me?
George, do you have anything for Mike?
Yeah, I have a quick one. Hopefully, I can see Mike quaking there. God, what's this guy going to come out with? Mike, I just want to know what drives you. Qlik has made a lot of key acquisitions this year. You're taking the company in a very sort of strategic direction. What drives you? Where do these ideas come from?
So George, I think you all know, I haven't always been on the dark side selling software, right? So the first 26 years of my career, I was a CIO and a CTO. And so I've always been on the other side of the table. It wasn't until very late in my career that I went over to the kind of the supplier side. And what drives me is doing it with our customers, not to them, right? So it really is trying to understand what outcomes our customers are driving. And when I can get to that CTO, when I talk to the CIO of Urban Outfitters, for example, who is going through a tough time right now because, again, Urban Outfitters, clothing for teenagers, back to school, there was no back to school because of remote learning, and having that conversation about how we can help him with data and analytics solve problems and get his business on track in the new normal. That's what drives me. And so when we do things like acquire Blender.io, it's because those folks are saying, look, I need a way to stitch together in a secure integration platform, my cloud applications with yours. And so we go out and we do that. But it really is that. It's the empathy I have for people who are in the chair that I used to be in.
Cool. Well, it seems to be working. Okay, a last one, a personal one. What are you doing over the holidays to relax? Are you having a holiday?
I am without a head of sales right now. So I am head of sales and I am CEO. So I will probably be hard at it until the 31st at around 11:59. That said, I am now up in a place in upstate New York that many of you will know. It's a place called Lake Placid. So Lake Placid, home of the 1980 Olympics. It's when the U.S. We have a big Russian team, so I'll be careful. But when we won, let's just say the hockey gold medal, Lake Placid, New York, where the Olympics were. It's a great ski resort. So I brought my daughter and my wife up here. I will sit here and do Zooms while they go ski Whiteface Mountain. So it's a good compromise.
Sounds fantastic. Boys, I think we need to get you a kilt as well to go with that shirt.
Yeah.
Would wear it.
The next time that we're allowed, George. Yeah. I suppose, Mike. Just I mean, thanks, guys. Just a couple of quick ones from me, Mike, as well. You mentioned Claymore earlier. In a previous episode of QVMS, we talked a little bit about WWE and Drew McIntyre, the WWE champion, who is also Scottish, and whose finisher move is the Claymore. So I just wondered if that one was inspired by the other. Was my from a personal standpoint, and from a more serious point. Obviously, Qlik is going through a lot of acquisitions in the last year or so, and the breadth of product that you're able to provide is changing so rapidly. So how do you kind of cross section that depth of marketing and keeping the message solid as you start to increase the brand and the breadth of product?
No, it's a good question, and it's a challenge because in theory the piece parts, there's different buying centers sometimes. Our center, our kind of grounding has always been what's behind the dashboard matters, right? And what you're doing to be able to pull together disparate sources of data and pull them together and analyze them and find patterns in that data. All the things you guys know about Qlik, all the things that makes us better, different than our competitors, is really what grounds us. So as we pull these things in, we always go back to, okay, but what is the story? And we'll call it active analytics now. That's going to be our kind of outward facing. But when I talked to my head of sales of the Americas, who came over, he was part of the Attunity acquisition. Now he's running the whole business. He was funny. He came to me and he said, I don't know if I want to take on the analytics sales force because it's starting to feel a little commoditized. He spent one day with Mike Potter and Drew Clark and James Fisher, and he came back and he said, oh my God, he said, you guys have the greatest product in the world. Just get out of your own way. You could sell tons of this stuff. And he's the one who came back and he said, look, what's underneath the dashboard matters. And so as we do these acquisitions, it really is thinking about, let's come back to what makes our customers successful and loyal. And you may have seen this big campaign we have going on right now. When we mined our data, we found over 100 customers just in the last 12 months who left to go to Power BI and came back. They came back, so their CIO said, oh, Power BI, it's free, it's included, it's this, it's that. And then they tried to do some stuff and they couldn't do it. They just couldn't do it. So they came back to Qlik, and then they were willing to speak on the record about that experience. And that just reminds us, what we do matters, what our technology matters. And as we layer in new technology and put it into the platform, that's what gets us excited. And that's how we try to keep the branding and messaging consistent.
I think that's good. A great point that you hit on with the success stories there, and it's an exciting time to be part of the Qlik ecosystem with the way that you guys are expanding. And it's been fantastic to have you on live here, Mike. We've been building up to it for weeks, and you haven't disappointed. So thank you so much for coming along. And we know that you have other commitments as well. So with that, just thanks so much for coming on, and we'll hope we get a chance to talk again soon in a bit more detail.
No, my pleasure. I do apologize for having to drop off, but it's being recorded, so I promise you I'll catch the recording because I really want to do hear Mr. Farmer and some of the other speakers. I'm kind of excited to hear all that. So thank you for having me on, and have a great rest of the meeting.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Mike. Thank you.
Cheers, everyone.
So, ladies and gentlemen, what a way to start off our meetup with Mike Capone, CEO of Qlik. And I think we'll all agree that there's been a big shift in the way that Qlik has been moving over the last 1 to 2 years in terms of acquisition and product, and it's a very exciting part of the ecosystem to be involved in. So thank you so much for Mike coming on and telling us all about that. So we have a lot more to cover. So we wanted to make sure we got Mike in and gave Mike his time, but I want to take a little sidestep at the moment, like we always do in our meetups, to just say thank you to the Meetup and Luminary programs for giving us the opportunities to stand and do these type of events. I can see about 80 people in the room right now, which is amazing. But I thought if Carolyn's there and she's around, it might be her chance to just say a few words about the Meetup and Luminary programs. Carolyn?
Sure. No problem, thanks. Hey everyone, I'm Carolyn. For those of you who don't know, I think I do this for every Scottish meetup event, so hopefully by now you've heard my spiel before, but this is kind of a big one, so if there's any new faces out there, it's nice to meet everyone. And so I work at Qlik. I am under Jillian, and we run customer marketing. So I help manage all of our advocacy programs, including, of course, meetups and Luminary, and then there's a bunch of other little ones as well. But our meetup program has taken a lot of changes since COVID has happened, and the Scottish meetup group has really kind of spearheaded taking everything online. And I think we started in March with online meetups, and I think the Scottish meetup group usually gets around, 50 to 60 people. And today we had over 170 registrants for this meetup, which is awesome. It's grown so much, and we have so many other meetups kind of taking place online as well since COVID has happened. So it's been really a transformative time. And moving forward now, hopefully we can incorporate these online Zoom meetings with every in-person meetup as well, so that they can continue being such a great kind of international global thing that they have become. And then of course there's the Luminary program, which Jillian and I run together, and that is where we take kind of Qlik's brightest and most passionate advocates who have really kind of taken a love of Qlik and been really involved in turning Qlik into, you know, really powerful data insights and sharing them as loudly as they can. And that's been really cool to work with such a close-knit group of Qlik advocates. So thanks you guys for having me on so much. And it's been really fun. It's been a really cool year. It's been a really, you know, terrible year as far as COVID, but it's been inspiring to see us all kind of come together and figure things out all at the same time. So thanks everyone.
Thanks,
Carolyn. Thanks so much, Carolyn. Yeah, Andrew, some words from you.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, obviously, without Carolyn and Jillian's help, especially, and Shelley as well, this is just going to be a non-starter. We've just leaned on you guys so much over the last year, and we're obviously appreciative of everything you do.
Of course, yeah. Thanks, guys. It's been awesome to help you guys get to 170 plus registrants, and now we're live streaming. So it's been cool, and I can't wait to see it continue in 2021.
Thank you, Carolyn. Great stuff, and you know the level of appreciation we have for you and Jillian and the team. So thanks again. We appreciate it a lot.
Do you want Brian as just a recognition to allow Carolyn to pick the winner of the first prize? I don't know.
I think that seems fitting, Carolyn. Perhaps you can give us the maximum registrant number to begin with, and then.
Okay. All right, so we have a total of 167 registrants. So I'm gonna pick number 56 for the Qlik prize, and that is Sivan Prasad. You will be getting a special Qlik prize. I've got your email, so be on the lookout from that, and we'll send you a really cool Qlik swag package.
Congratulations to our first winner. If you want to just stick your hand up virtually in the chat, that would be really helpful for us, so we know you're here. But that's great. Thanks, Carolyn. Much appreciated.
No problem.
So we've had guest one. This is where it gets really exciting, because we decided the format of this show was going to be that George and myself and Andrew were each going to pick two of our favourite returning guests. Not that all of our guests haven't been our favourites, but two of our very favourites returning each year. And I think that we're ready to kind of move on to our first guest, and that falls to me to bring back Scott Taylor, the data whisperer, the truth, and any other moniker that you want to give him. He's probably got puppets and light up hats and everything sitting there in the background, but Scott came on and with Rob Wunderlich and QVMS. Oh gosh, I should have a script in front of me that tells me which episode you were all on, but I don't. So, but it was a great episode, lots of infectious energy. And Scott, you've obviously got some big news for us in terms of your raffle prize and everything associated with that. I saw you unpacking on video on LinkedIn last night. So over to you, my friend.
All right. Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Am I good?
Yes, we can.
All right, good. Do I end up being the big, let me see if there we go. Okay.
Yeah, you're the big guy.
Hi, everybody. I want to thank Andrew and Brian and George for having me back. I appreciate it. Here to talk to you about how to get value out of data, kind of a big conceptual idea, if you will, but thrilled to be here. And yes, my exciting news is I've got a new book out called Telling Your Data Story, Data Storytelling for Data Management. My prize today will be the ebook version. Helps with shipping. Hope you don't mind. We're all very digital here, but I did get a pack of tangible books over the weekend. I was super thrilled. And this book is, as I mentioned, Telling Your Data Story, Data Storytelling for Data Management. And the guarantee is it is 99% buzzword free. So it's a way to help convey the strategic value of proper data management to the business side. It's a way to tell that data story a little better. A lot of people talk about data storytelling in the analytics side. That's telling stories with data. I felt there was room in the market to also expand data storytelling and the definition of it to include data management. So telling stories about data. We need both. We need both. So, and I'm also really thrilled on Amazon already. The book is already ranking at number 398 in performing arts, which I think is a unique application of their obviously artificial intelligence-based categorization algorithms. And it makes me feel excited about two things. One, there's a little, and number two, if you look at it, and the way I looked at it, it is the number one book, data book in performing arts. So I think I'm ranking number one there. I'm seeing a whole bunch of flashing. I have a question. And am I coming through okay? Or is that just my computer? I just want to do a reality check on technical stuff. We good?
You're still with us.
So.
You're good. You're good.
All right, cool. So let me moving right along here. I want to talk about what I call the 8 8s of data value. There are 8 ways I have found people get value out of data. I haven't found a 9th. If you come up with a 9th, I'd like to hear about it. But these are the 8. I'm going to go through them rather briskly because I only have a couple minutes. There's more in the book. There's more on YouTube. But let me take you through these 8 8s. And just to give you a sense of my overall philosophy, I feel like there's 2 things that people have to do with data: determine the truth and derive meaning. You've got to determine the truth first. That's data management. Obviously, that's the side I come from, hence the meaning of my truth hat. But you also want to derive meaning. And you've got to do it in that order. This is not chicken or egg here. This is egg and omelet. If you don't get the truth done first, you will not get adequate meaning out of it. That's for sure. Every business, I have data scientists, data visionaries, data analysts, all kinds of folks, especially on the business intelligence side, say, how do we get closer to the business? How do I bring value to my business? How do I understand my business more? And I like to sum it up and say, all businesses are there to provide value to their relationships through their brands at scale. That's what we need to do. And the at scale part is where you come in. If you want to do it at scale, that takes technology. Technology needs data. Data needs data management, needs business intelligence. But that's where we all fit in, is to help our businesses.
Scott, I'm sorry to interrupt you in mid-flow, but I think we maybe lost your video. I don't know if you can switch your camera on and off again. I think we maybe lost you for a sec there. So sorry to interrupt you.
Okay. Yeah, I'm having unfortunately, I'm having all kinds of flashing on my computer here suddenly. It's very bizarre. Sorry. Is that better? No?
We still don't see you yet, unfortunately.
No.
I seem to have frozen. Crap. Oh, am I there?
Oh, you're back. Yes,
I'm back.
You're back. Yes.
Hi, everybody. And so in conclusion, is that better? Sorry for the technical difficulties here. We're trying out some stuff, so hopefully it works. Anyway, provide value to your relationships through your brands at scale. That's what we all want to try and do no matter what. So these 8 8s, they start with the first one, the most important one: relate. You want to build relationships in your business. You want to grow your relationships. You want to create relationships, develop relationships. If you don't have relationships, you don't have a business. So everything you do with data has got to point toward this idea of building and growing, maintaining and protecting your relationships. And a great way to do that is obviously to point data at that relationship idea. The second 8 is validate. Before you get into a relationship, you got to know whether it's okay to have. And in a lot of cases in the data space, do you have data on that relationship already? Did you validate it? Did you unduplicate it? Did you search before you create? That's a handy tip from the master data management space in terms of avoiding those pesky duplicates that cause a lot of munging on the data science side. So before you have a relationship, you've got to validate. Then you need to integrate. How do you take all the data you've got about something and pull it all together in one way? You want to get that 360 view of customer, of product, whatever it happens to be. You want to pull it all together and integrate all these disparate data sources. And do you have a 360 view? Or are you just going around in circles? That depends on your methodology, but you certainly want to integrate that data. Then you want to aggregate. Aggregation is, most reporting is some form of aggregation, rolling things up to a country level, geography level, ownership, category, all different kinds of aggregation. I think I've kind of stopped here too. Am I okay? I'm going to keep going. Then you want to interoperate. How do you take and work on a seamless code-to-code basis between all your different services? You want to be able to interoperate that data, and only standardized data can do that. And then eventually you want to get to a point where a lot of you are at, which is evaluate. How do you put this in some sort of business intelligence process? How do you, I'm seeing all kinds of notes here, I'm sorry. How do you do that? And certainly evaluation is where business intelligence comes in. Once you build that foundation of truth on the bottom, then you can begin to derive meaning. And as we all know, and I often say, good decisions made on bad data are just bad decisions you don't know about yet. Eventually, you want to communicate. That's what a lot of people want to do, especially when you get to data. How do we talk on the same page? How do we speak the same language? How do we communicate with each other about the value we're trying to bring? And if you want to have a relationship, you've got to communicate. Just ask anybody you love. Now that's 7/8 so far. And the last one is circulate. Data to have value has got to be in motion. It's got to move. It can't be stuck in some silo. It can't be locked in a PDF somewhere. Data has got to move across your organization and get as close to the decision as possible. So we want to make sure you can circulate that data. That's it pretty quickly. Those, ladies and gentlemen, are your 8/8s of getting data value. I won't read them all, but if you want to take a look at them, take a look in YouTube, take a look in on my LinkedIn page, follow me somewhere. But very quickly, I might have a couple minutes left for some questions. I don't even know if you can see me because on my screen, I am frozen and with aggregate here, but hopefully somehow we've come through, at least my voice, my passion about this space. But I want to thank the folks at the Qlik meetup for having me again, and hopefully they'll have me back. Is this video is frozen? Okay, there we go.
Yeah, your video did freeze. You know what the questions are going to be now? They're going to be, can you tell us? It's going to be like a memory test of what
a
you told us.
disaster!
But the good job you have that final slide up there. Yeah, 9 videos frozen. That's a nice one from.
Are we ready to go now? Should I start over? Are we set?
Yeah,
now it's working.
No,
there we go. The joys of digital e-meetings.
That was amazing, Scott. And this is just one of a set of different topics that you have, right? In terms of the 8/8s, you have a lot of other things that you do as well.
We talk about the 4 C's. Data management, we talk about the 8/8s, we talk about the 3 phases of digital transformation. All of this is just a way to simplify the discussion around data, to make it more business accessible. It's not there to, I'm not pretending to rewrite your data architecture. I'm not pretending to be an analytics guy at all. I'm just good at talking about data, and none of us get enough support from the business side. None of us get enough funding, enough stakeholder engagement, and there's still way too much, whether you're in data or analytics, there's still way too much existential conversation about why should we even be doing this? There's no company on earth that's going to survive today if they don't put data and analytics in what they do. And as I mentioned way up front, hopefully I didn't freeze before them, we all want to provide value to our relationships through our brands at scale. And the only way to do it at scale is by putting data and analytics in those processes.
I think that's some fantastic points, Scott, here. And you've got you can also see a lot of alternatives here for your number 9. I think you've got some more things that you can add on. If you have a look at the chat. 9
I want to see who's come up with. I want to see who's come up with 9, because I've been doing this for about 5 years now. I haven't seen. All right, flagellate, maybe. I had somebody go, oh, what about gesticulate? I said that rhymes with 8, but I would put that under communicate for well, gesticulate. Well, I'll take a look at the comments.
So do you want to take a look at the question from Francesco, Scott? Is there part in your book that relates to how to communicate data with stakeholders and business users, and how would you tackle those kinds of communication issues?
Thank you, Francisco. The check is in the mail. That is literally the thesis of this book. That's the point of the book, is how to communicate effectively to business stakeholders, how to put your data story together. And I've got tips in talking to CEOs. I come from a sales background, and there's a lot of that kind of craft that most folks are on the that I've found, if you're very deep into like data science, you may not be that great on the soft skill part. I'm a pure soft skill guy. I don't touch anything. You don't want me near any of your actual data and analytics processes. I'm good at sort of conveying the value of that, especially to those business stakeholders and those the C-level folks who really, in my view, they don't care about how you do it until they understand why it's important. So if there's anything I can leave you is focus on the why when you're talking to the business. Once they understand the why, then you can bring them along on how you do it. But a lot of people I've seen start with that how. And that's not what captures the hearts and minds of those business folks that we all need to engage with.
Well, thank you, Scott. I think you've put that as succinctly as you possibly can in the space of sort of 15 minutes. So that was great. And it's a delight to have you back on the show again. And I'm sure it won't be the last time. We love your setup as well. So thank you for coming along. One of the big things that's left that you have to do for us is pick a number so that Carolyn can do the honors with the book. So Carolyn, can you give us the max number again, please?
Yep, 167.
So you're between
I think there's
1 and
really only
167.
one type of number I can pick. How about 88?
88. There you go, Carolyn.
That will be Soren Bogd.
Soren, way to go.
Is a winner.
Congratulations, Soren. Carolyn is diligently noting that down, and we'll work out a way to get you your ebook from Scott. Thank you again, Scott. Much appreciated.
Thank you, everybody. Sorry about the technical frozen part, but hey, hopefully it came through at some point. Cheers.
We heard the whole thing, Scott, so it's all good. It's all good. Thank you, Scott Taylor, everyone. Right, and without any further ado, we will move on to our next guest. Now, I believe this was my first guest. Scott was my first guest. I believe the next one is Andrew. So I will pass it over to Andrew to introduce his first choice.
Okay, thanks, Brian. So in keeping with the semi-Scottish theme of the event, I thought it was worthwhile inviting back Donald Farmer. Obviously, most people know Donald Farmer. He's an awesome speaker. He's on the international circuit, ex-Microsoft, ex-Qlik, and now the leader of TreeHive strategy. So he gave a really interesting talk earlier this year that actually most of us not just enjoyed, but were wowed with in terms of this presentation. So I'd like to welcome back Donald Farmer.
Oh, thank you very much. That's very kind. I've got my flashy hat on. That's
looking. Oh, I didn't see the lights, Donald. That's nice. I like that.
That's my wife bought me this for Christmas, so that's I didn't make it myself, but I did get that. Well, it's great to be back with you guys. That's it's wonderful, and so many people online. I think like 80 people online just now, so that's great. Scott was good fun. Mike Capone's always good to listen to. I think of all the tech CEOs that I listen to, Mike is one of the most kind of genuine, kind of straightforward, and at the same time, really, really interesting guy. And I think if you think of the history of Qlik, Mike coming in the last few years, not therefore part of the original team that built Qlik. That's actually gives you a very interesting kind of perspective when you see that kind of CEO who comes in to really run the business, but they're not married to some of the kind of founding legends of the company. And that's kind of important because it gives you an opportunity to do things that is much more difficult to do if you're actually if you carry the weight of history with you. So I thought he was really great, and I think he's inspiring in the way that he's building Qlik into a new kind of company, and it's great to see. Well, this has been it's been quite the year, hasn't it? I mean, this has been really something. In some ways, we should have seen it coming. I was in Asia earlier in the year, and I travel a lot, as most people know. Not this year; I haven't traveled that much. But I have been, actually, I say that, but this year I was in Asia and Africa and Europe before things locked down. I bought my masks in January. I actually have the order in Amazon. I sometimes show that. I think we weren't ready in this country and I'm speaking from the US, but it's certainly true in Britain as well. We weren't ready for the impact of this, and yet everywhere I traveled before, people were getting very concerned. In January already, I mean, I ordered my masks as soon as I came back from Asia, because it was very clear that something very, very big was happening. I was in Africa just before things closed down, and two things were really interesting there. One was they were taking it very seriously. In Rwanda, where I was visiting, I'd done some tech events in South Africa, and I was doing some volunteer work in Rwanda, which I'll tell you about. And they'd already started to do three things that were super interesting. First of all, they had washing your hand stations at every public venue you went to. If you went into a restaurant, you had to wash your hands before you went into the restaurant and sanitize, and you had to give your name and address and your phone number so that you could be contacted. So they'd already, even though they didn't have a contact tracing app, they'd already started to put in place the infrastructure before they had the technology. That seems actually like a very important kind of learning there already. They didn't have the technology in place, but they put in place the infrastructure. And then they immediately started working on the technological and the information aspects of how they would tackle this crisis. And one thing that became very clear early on in Rwanda was they did not have the technology or the money to run testing. And they wanted to do a wide-scale testing, and part of the secret to controlling the crisis was going to be doing wide-scale testing, and then, of course, doing kind of tracing. Well, the tracing they are able to do to a certain extent using cell phones and so on. And the other thing to say is that the Rwandan government is not the most kind of open of governments, so they have a lot of control over people, and therefore they have things that they can do with the data without, privacy concerns, which are both good and bad. And in this case, I suppose, turned out to be good. And you see similar cases in Singapore where the government is able to use technology to trace people. But when it comes down to the data side of this is where it gets really interesting. The Rwandans simply couldn't afford to do mass testing, too expensive. But what they could do was do pooled testing. So they could go into a village and do, take samples from 150 people. They could mix the samples together into, say, 4 or 5 samples. So they only do 5 tests for 150 people. And if one of them turns out to be positive, then they know which group that person came from. So they can do another set of tests there. And in this way, by pooling the results, they can actually reduce the total number of tests they needed. And then they could start to isolate areas, isolate businesses, isolate apartment blocks, isolate areas of the city. And they could do that driven with data. And it was absolutely fascinating that they developed algorithms, they developed methodologies for doing this mass testing with a very small number of tests. And as a result, they actually have been one of the most effective countries in the world. One of the countries which is, ironically, is on, countries which are relatively clear, like New Zealand, Australia, Iceland, have certain extent, they have open sky policies for countries which can show that they've got adequate testing. And Rwanda is on nearly all of those lists. And yet one of the poorest countries and one of the countries with the least ability in terms of technology or medical infrastructure to do this, but all driven by their use of information, their use of data, and frankly, their use of very, very smart application of how they thought about these problems. So it was a great example to me of innovation. They thought about how could we do this differently, and how can we do it with very limited resources. So I thought that was kind of super interesting. The other thing that I've seen over the last year that's been really important to me has been, I think I've said this in a couple of places, but let me kind of reiterate it. This is not my first crisis. I've seen, this might be the biggest crisis, the global crisis, but it's not the first. I mean, we've seen the oil crisis in the 90s. There was a dot-com crash in the 2000s, which affected me personally. It's actually one of the reasons I ended up in the States. There was a global financial crisis of 2008. And what you see, and there was the Asian economic crisis, which preceded the global, the dot-com crash. What we've seen in all these cases in the world of data and analytics is new technologies coming to the fore, which they have 3 characteristics that we can say about them. The first is that there are new technologies which come to the fore, but they already existed before. They were proven, but now they're not brand new technologies which come out of nowhere. In a crisis, actually, the last thing you need to reach out for is a brand new unproven technology. It tends to be a proven technology which now gets its chance for the big time. So that's one thing. The other thing about these technologies is they all enable data analytics to be more agile, exploratory, and in the hands of more and more business users. And then the third thing we can say about them is that they don't replace previously existing technologies. They actually either provide an extra layer on top of them, or they complement those technologies. So the older technologies don't die away, they're still there. So let me give you some examples of that. So data warehousing as a practice really started in the 1980s and in the early 1990s. And at the time of the oil crisis, many companies, including large oil companies in Scotland and large multinationals of all sorts, started to realize that they needed much better insight into their business processes and into their data and their analytics. And so this technology existed. We'd had corporate reporting for years, of course, but now the data warehouse really came to the front, and companies like Sybase and IBM and Oracle and started to build, and Teradata, of course, started to really come to the fore with data warehousing technologies, which of course didn't replace corporate reporting, it was still there. And then in the kind of Asian financial crisis and the dot-com crash, business intelligence came to the fore. Companies like Business Objects and Cognos and MicroStrategy, which had already been around for years, but now came to the fore as technologies which can bring in analytics into the hands of the business user. And they didn't do away with data warehouses. Data warehouses are still there. The world's largest tech IPO was a data warehousing company, and that was this year. So data warehousing didn't go away, but business intelligence complemented those technologies. In sort of the 2008 financial crisis, you then had technologies like Qlik and Tableau coming to the fore. Self-service technologies, Power BI came to the fore. And these technologies had all existed before. Qlik was already a well-established company. By 2008, it was almost 20 years old, probably 15, 18 years old at that point. Tableau had been around since 2000. And so these companies had already existed. They had proven technology, but now they came to the fore. But they didn't replace existing technologies, existing business intelligence technologies. They now provided a layer of self-service, which was in front of them. So the really interesting thing about this crisis is what's going to emerge. And it's something that already exists. As William Gibson said, the future's already here, it's just not evenly distributed. So these are technologies which already exist, which will come to the fore in this crisis. And we're already seeing them. And very importantly, I want to kind of doubly emphasize that they don't replace existing technologies. They complement them. It's not a zero-sum game. Now, if you went back, it's 2005, 2008, and you listened to Qlik and Tableau, you'd think they were going to just destroy all the existing business intelligence companies. Oh my goodness. All that traditional business intelligence is gone. Who needs a data warehouse? I remember people at Qlik walking up and down, outside the Salesforce conference at SAP conference with placards saying, no more data warehouses, no more cubes. Well, the world's largest tech IBO was a data warehouse company and now a very major Qlik partner. So that didn't happen. So what technologies are going to emerge which don't replace Qlik and Tableau, and they don't replace business intelligence, and they don't replace data warehouses, but they form another analytic layer, another analytic surface, if you like, that brings analytics more and more to the front. I think the two that you can see very, very notably are natural language, becoming very, very much more important, both as a way of inputting queries and as a way of getting information back out, and search-based or browsing-based. I prefer the phrase browsing-based, but most of the companies doing it use the term search-based analytics, which again is even more free-form and allows access to even more forms of information. So there's really interesting technologies emerging there, the most famous one being ThoughtSpot, but there's others like SearchSpread and so on, which are developing search-based technologies. Looker, to a certain extent, is doing some of that. We're seeing some of it coming from Microsoft. But we're seeing search-based technologies, and we're seeing natural language coming to the fore but they're not replacing, they're complementing existing technologies. So for people out there thinking that it's somehow, we're locked in a huge battle between self-service and ThoughtSpot or whatever, it's really not like that at all. It's not a zero-sum game. What we're actually seeing is a new generation of technologies. And just as data warehousing is still a very, very hot and important technology. Self-service business intelligence, especially in the cloud and especially with a data platform background like Qlik has, is going to be important in the future. So that's really something I've taken away this year. We're going through a crisis. It's fascinating to observe it, but we should be looking for these new technologies, but we shouldn't be in any way concerned about the existing technologies. In fact, we should be looking even more at how they can complement the new technological approaches which are emerging, whether that's, as I say, natural language, search-based technologies, even automated machine learning, things like that. So it's been a super interesting year. I think next year we're going to see, as I say, the development of these technologies. You'll see as the recovery comes, companies having more money to spend, and we should see a sort of recovery in the economy in general. But most excitingly, we will see even more spending in the analytics space, because when you don't have money, you need to analyze data in order to optimize your spend. When you do have money, then the latest technologies and experimenting and innovating with new aspects of information technology becomes exciting again. And so either way, we're actually in a great space in analytics. It doesn't mean it's not difficult, but we are in one of the best places we can be. So with that, I really do wish you a fantastic Christmas when it comes, if you're celebrating. If not, enjoy the holiday season anyway, and especially enjoy the new year, which I think is going to be, we can look back on a really tough one and look forward to a brighter future.
Wow, thanks, Donald. Very positive message to end on. Appreciate that. Brian, George, have you got any follow-up questions for Donald?
I think there was a question in the chat that was quite interesting there, Donald, as well. Is data, from Nicholas Tim, is data collection the most ignored aspect of data analytics? Asked Nicholas. Do you have any thoughts on that?
It's a great question. I think that's I think we could, if I could find a word that ended in 8, I would probably add it as 0 before you even get to 1. But I think it probably is actually, because how you acquire data, where data comes from. One of the things we forget is that data isn't real. There are no customers in your customer database. Not a single one of them lives there. There are no products in your product database. There's not a single product in there. Data is just a metaphor for the real world, and it has been created, and it's inaccurate as soon as it's created. And it's only ever a partial view of the world. So that process of how does your data get into the system in the first place is absolutely critical. And really good examples of that include, how look at a sales system. What's a sale in a sales system? How does it get in there? How does something get into Salesforce? That entire process is so fraught with human interpretation that the data itself is already gone through numerous analytic and transformational processes before it even becomes a 1 and a 0. So I think that's a very critical thing.
Thanks, Donald.
Andrew, George, any
another question's come in from Christoph. What do you think about Qlik's current strategy in terms of its NLP and artificial intelligence, augmented intelligence?
Oh yeah,
product line.
Yeah, I like Chris. I like the stuff that Qlik acquired in NLP. I want to suggest there's 2 things about it. One is that natural language is a really advanced technology, and it's possible to build natural language interpretation systems. I worked on natural language system back in the 1990s. Microsoft had a product called English Query in 1997. SQL Server version 7, which was a way of querying SQL databases using natural language. So this technology has been around for quite a while. There are what I call deep and shallow interfaces. The shallow interface could be seen as an enormous list of what-if statements that basically parse sentences and look very effective. And if you go back to something like Eliza, then we remember Eliza, the kind of the little kind of psychiatrist that could ask you questions, and you could write it in Visual Basic, and it still worked very, very well, and it actually felt like it understood you at times, which was kind of creepy, but it was very, very basic. And on the other hand, there are very deep natural language engines, like the kind that come from narrative science, for example. And fair's fair, I'm an advisor to narrative science, so I suppose I've got some bias there, but that's a very deep natural language engine, and I think Qlik's somewhere in between. It's not a powerful, deep natural language engine. It's actually more of a kind of natural language processor rather than a natural language understanding engine, if you like. But I think they've actually done a really good job of integrating it and making it into something that's actually quite useful. And in terms of artificial intelligence, I'm really wary of applying the term artificial intelligence to something that is actually just machine learning. I think that's maybe because I worked in machine learning previously when I ran the data mining team at Microsoft. And I was very aware that the artificial intelligence researchers were far more intelligent than I was. So I don't like to call machine learning artificial intelligence. To me, artificial intelligence implies autonomy. If the system is autonomous, it is capable of working on its own, and is capable of learning on its own, and is capable of choosing its own methodologies, then I think you're getting close to artificial intelligence. If it's just machine learning, and don't get me wrong, it can be really very cool, and I think Qlik have done a great job with integrating machine learning, but it's machine learning, it's not artificial intelligence.
And I think just one final brief one, Donald, a really good question from Adrian as well. When do you think we'll reach the point where sort of machine learning can kind of scrape data and provide visualizations and predictions automatically? How far do you think we are from that kind of Star Trek type of space where just autonomously pull data from the net and just automatically generate visualization and insight? Obviously, we see it encapsulated at the moment, but what about widening the net? Where do we see that going in the future?
Yeah, well, there is some of that going on. There are bots that you can kind of sign up for that do a certain amount of kind of independent net crawling for you. The really important thing here, though, is that those bots still need you to tell them what to do. They have no agency. So in other words, there's some fantastic bots that will go out there and search and continually keep you updated on COVID, and will find data and will tabulate and enumerate some of that data for you, which is great, and will continuously update your news feed. But you have to tell it that you're interested in COVID. We don't have bots yet which can sit there watching the world's information systems and then say, something, there's this virus which is just kind of broken out in China, and you, Mr. CEO or Mrs. CEO in the United Kingdom, need to be really worried about it, so I'm going to keep you updated about it. We don't have artificial intelligence at that level, and we're quite far away from that sort of autonomous system. And yet a human assistant could do that for you. I came back from Asia in January and was telling people that they really need to get worried about that, because human beings have that kind of ability to cross domains, and in particular, human beings have the ability to do what you might call metaphorical thinking, which is, I'm looking at this subject area and it reminds me of this other subject area, and so I can transfer my learning from one to another. And we do have transfer learning systems in artificial intelligence, but again, you need to tell them what to do. So we're quite far away from that kind of autonomy, but I think it'll come, and I think it'll come perhaps sooner than we think, because I'm fairly sure, in fact, I know for sure that there are services out there which are learning some of these capabilities already. So how far out? 4 or 5 years, maybe? Wouldn't surprise me.
Great stuff.
Fantastic.
Thank you. Thanks, Donald.
Yeah.
My great pleasure.
Yeah, Donald, an absolute pleasure to have you and your hat, I think.
Thanks very much.
Even more. You're competing with Scott there on the flashy stakes, so your insights are always valued, Donald, and you know that from this group. And we do hope that we can get you back to Scotland for a proper real life event at some point in the future when
Absolutely
it's more normal. But that was tremendously engaging. Thank you very much, Donald.
Thank you.
We look forward to seeing you soon.
Do I have to choose a number?
You do, yes. Yep.
You do have to choose a number.
I'm interested in your family sort of gin background. you want to get?
Oh, right, yeah. Oh, well, my son has moved back to Scotland, and he is now managing a distillery called Glenweavis, which is the first, I guess, the first community-owned Scotch whisky distillery making malt whisky. But that takes about 5 years for that to get that stuff to be ready. So in the meantime, they're making excellent gin, and it's really, really good. And I will, if somebody is actually in an area where we can ship it to, I will happily provide a bottle of gin and ship it to them. And if you're in an area where we can't ship it to, then I'll provide the equivalent value in some other form.
That's much appreciated. Thank you.
Later.
So, back to Carolyn. I think, Donald, if you want to pick a number between 1
my
and
number.
Carolyn's maximum.
How many have I got? I can see 81, but I are actually on, but there's more than that.
We have 167 registrants.
Wow, okay. So I am going to pick number 33.
Okay.
Simple reason, I'm not in my prime anymore. I'm in my semi-prime, and 33 is the first semi-prime number, which is a number which can be divided by 2 factors, and only 2 factors. It's also the first number which cannot be evaluated as a sum of 5 squares. Sorry, every number above that can be evaluated as a sum of 5 squares. And I've spent most of my year looking at people in little squares all over my screen, so it feels appropriate. So 33 is my number.
Okay, and the winner is Vikrant Bali.
Vikram, okay, that's great. Well, we'll find out where
Vikram's
Vikram
online.
is, and if I can send gin will be sent, and otherwise we'll send something else.
Thanks, Donald.
Thank you very much. I'm going to go and feed my cat now, so I might actually drop off for a little while, but I'll be back.
No problem. Thanks so much, John. Cheers.
That was fascinating.
Okay, and we roll on, and I think that was fantastic again. I think it's over to George now. I think Andrew and I have had a turn, and it's over to George now. So George, I'll pass our next guest over to you.
Cool. Thank you very much. So Nick, what can I say about Nick? Well, where do I start? Nick was the first time Nick was on the show. I actually missed it. I had to watch Nick as a recording. So sorry about that, Nick. We have met up several times in the actual flesh before COVID. You'll be pleased to hear. Nick has taught me more about APIs than I think anybody, and I don't know an awful lot about APIs, but what Nick managed to teach me about them in just a conversation over a beer, and I think connections in, was it 2017, 2016, 2017, has put me in really good stead just to get a good understanding for what it is that the developers I work with are doing on a day-to-day basis. So without any further ado, I'm going to hand over to Nick to keep us entertained for 10 minutes.
Thanks, George, and thanks for having me back. I do apologize in advance. I'm suffering from, dare I call it, man flu in these days, but I feel that's what I've got right now. So you'll have to forgive my bunged up noise. I also want to throw my hat in the ring. I mentioned right at the very beginning, not everybody was on. I wanted to wear a Christmas hat. I don't have one, but I did completely forget that I can do this. So I can also have flashy lights, because we decided it would be a great idea to have disco lights in our office. So this is the first time they've come in actually useful.
There's like all kinds of subtext appearing during the show, which I'm quite enjoying. But yeah, if anyone else has got any special light-based talents, then please do feel free to perform as we go on. Thanks, Nick.
No worries. Right. So I did prepare a few slides. I realize I've only got 10 minutes, and this is not going to be hectic by any means. So hopefully you can all see. I thought I'd do this a little bit differently to normal. And I want to give a brief summary of what 2020 meant to Websy as an organization, what we're trying to do, and some interesting things. Again, everything that we try to do as an organization is to inspire people with Qlik and with web technologies. And as I put this together, I kind of got a little bit lost in Giphy.com, so I apologize. This presentation is predominantly GIF-based, which, can only really mean one thing. So in February of this year, we signed a lease on a new office in Madrid. So I'm currently based in Madrid. We're now split across Madrid, the UK, and we have some people in the US as well. Now, obviously, this looks like a brand spanking new office. I can tell everybody's really excited about coming to the new Websy Madrid facilities. The idea with this was we got it very cheap. And bear in mind, this is February, early March. We decided, okay, let's get our refurb game on. Let's get this looking sharp. And well, March, that was the month, right? So that didn't happen, unfortunately. We got sent home and told that certainly in Madrid, we got housebound, made housebound, I guess the second week of March, I think it was. So we couldn't even go to the office. So that for me on a personal level and for many others around the world meant, certainly in my case, having children at home that had to join virtual school calls, which is interesting because we've seen you get a bunch of techies on a Zoom call. We have problems. Invite another 30 people that don't do this day in, day out, and the problems are just relentless. Fit that in with the fact that you then also have to work and have your own work-based calls. Again, if you have kids, this is probably a fairly familiar scenario. This has been about the last 6-7 months of many people's lives. And it's kind of, I think it makes us all feel human again, right? Because you may remember this. This was hilarious when it happened. And I dare say this has happened to the majority of people who have children or pets or whatever it may be. I think now there's less concern, right? If this happens now, everybody just understands. We're all human. We all have lives. There's things going on. COVID's kind of changed the world in a good way on many aspects. So for all the bad that's come from it, there's also a lot of the good that's come from it as well. So anyway, moving on. So we had a huge period of not being able to do anything. We finally got back into our office in, I think it was around July or August. And we managed to get some refurb going on. So we now have a facility that we can work in, but we can't use it because we're still not allowed to have people here, right? So in various different countries, there's various different rules. So nobody's going to come and do our training. So if you're not familiar with Websy and parts of what we do, a big part of it is training people. And with COVID in place, people don't really want to go and do training. So it's much like the meetup. Okay, everything is virtual, which again, there's positives that come from that. We suffered a little bit because we have a platform called Websy Academy, and we had big plans for it this year. Lots of new courses to be recorded, and it's videos, and it's lots of what for us it's sophisticated. We couldn't do any of that, so it really slowed us down. Which again, it's not a bad thing. But for all of our plans and everything we've tried to do, I feel like this is probably a good comparison for many of us this year. You're getting so close to where you want to get to with all of the boundaries and restrictions, but just not quite there yet, at least anyway. So I shouldn't poo-poo the whole year. Like I say, there's a lot of bad going on. There's just a lot of good, right? So onto a more kind of work-based note, I guess. This is very much a metaphor from my perspective, although it applies to Websy as a whole. I, as an individual, put hot sauce on everything. Okay, it doesn't matter who's cooked it or what it is, with the exception of desserts. I'm not a monster. But in terms of normal food, I put hot sauce on everything. And for us as an organization, that's pretty much what we do with Qlik and the web, right? We just throw it on everything. Doesn't matter what the task is. We tend to default and just say, yeah, we can do that with Qlik, and we do it with a bit of web as well. And so what I mean by that is, if you did catch the last meetup, I spoke about a tool, which is a charity-based tool. And the reason that we do these things is there's kind of this magic moment. And George, you may have seen this with some of the stuff that we've spoken about, but once you start building with, it's either Qlik, the web, or both, you get this little tingly feeling, right? You've just found you can do something new. So one of the things that I showed in the last meetup was that we have built a site for a charity based on the West Coast of the US, along with a few other people, it's effectively a search catalog. And they host a whole bunch of it's printed media around typography and design. They're taking high-res photos and they're putting it online and allowing people to have access to it. And it's accessed by universities, people that are interested in this. And it's, there's free and paid for services. And it's powered by Qlik, but it's essentially a shopping basket. Okay, so you can search for what you're interested in, whether it's artists, authors, certain designs, font families, all of these things. And under the hood, it's Qlik. Okay, but there's no analytics going on. There's zero analytics here apart from maybe a count of data. And we're seeing more and more of this because it's such a great tool for just finding data. And I think if you think about all of the things that Qlik can do and all of the new products that they're slowly acquiring and the family's getting bigger, there's so many capabilities, but at the heart of it all, it's data, right? And that's what Qlik is very good at. So even if you're just using it to find and manage data to a certain extent, you still get loads of value. So there's these two screenshots, which are two parts of the site. The words, anything that is a word here is effectively a predefined list box selection. So you can click anywhere on the site and it will run a search through Qlik and provide a list of values back from it. And that can apply across many different subject matters, whether it is books or it's Amazon. How about you use Qlik behind it and have a good search and all of these things. If you have something that requires data, then from my perspective, why not think about whether or not you can use Qlik? It doesn't matter if there's no set analysis, no bar charts. If you've got Qlik already, and this is where it kind of fits in. If you've already got Qlik, what else can you use it for? And I'll give you an example. So we work with a big organization in the US, and they have all of the BI tools. Okay, and this is typical across enterprise organizations. They've got Power BI, Tableau, they've got Qlik View and Qlik Sense. They use Box. They've got a whole bunch of different tools, and they use all of them. And what we were told was we have real difficulty navigating our way around what's important to us. Because let's say, so us in the marketing department, we want to look at these different artifacts across these different tools, but they're 10 in 10,000. We want to bring them all together in one space. So us as a family of web developers said, fine, we can, we'll build you a navigation system, or we'll just iframe everything. In fact, you know what? We'll use Qlik to build the iframes, to build the outside web skeleton. So now they have a Google sheet where they can manage what the structure of their, effectively a menu bar looks like, and where the iframes link to. Now this in no way, shape or form requires Qlik for any of it, but they've already got the infrastructure in place and a whole bunch of components that we've helped them build. So for us, it just made sense. Yeah, let's just throw Qlik on top of that because it will cut development time down. It makes our life easier. And suddenly now these people don't have to go across 10, hundreds of different URLs to get to what they want. They've got this really nicely organized machine that is now spreading through the organization, and everybody wants their own version of it. And here I have to reiterate, this is better if you've already got Qlik, because Qlik, just to build some kind of menu system with URLs and you're not using 95% of what Qlik can do, Qlik's expensive for that. Okay, so you have to kind of think about it, but in terms of land and expand, and I feel like I'm preaching as a Qlik salesperson, I'm really not. But I just love all of this stuff. I love being able to throw Qlik at a solution, mix it with the web, mix it with all of these cool open source technologies. And there's so much that you can do. And if you've already invested in these technologies, why not use them for as much as you possibly can? And so that's it for me. It's very quick. And I'm very much hoping, I'm very optimistic as a person in general. I'm really looking forward to 2021 and what it brings. So thanks, guys.
Thanks so much, Nick. I have a quick question. First of all, a statement. That little aha moment for me came, I think, when I was able to make a static web page change using Ajax. That was probably a few years ago, but that moment stays with me. Could you just quickly give us a quick rundown of what your services are on the academy? What kind is it all just Qlik Sense or API training? What else is in there?
So Academy is broken down to 3 categories. So we deal with web, where there's no requirement to understand any Qlik whatsoever. It's purely web. It's all detached. And then there's Qlik, as in tradition, what I would call traditional Qlik. So it's the dashboarding, analytics, out-of-box client, set analysis, data modeling, all of that stuff. And then the last one is Qlik APIs. So how can I take those 2 previous steps of web and Qlik and build mashups and integrate and build my own solutions with them? And it's kind of pick and mix. So there's 3 separate categories and you choose if you want 1, 2, or 3. and again, Academy specifically is, pay monthly, pay yearly. We're trying to make it really affordable. And this was a real eye opener for us this year. Our prices were probably very high. We compared our Academy prices to our ILT training prices. Okay, so if you pay £500, euros a day for training, we kind of thought, well, you're getting more training and you're getting it for a year, let's charge the same. And the reality was, I don't pay that much for things. If I buy a SaaS service, I want it to be, 10, 20 pounds a month. That's kind of my upper limit. So we reduced prices, and we're really just trying to, I don't want to have a yacht. Well, I do want to have a yacht and be a millionaire, but I'm realistic. I want to make this stuff accessible to everybody. So we're really trying this year to make this stuff so that anybody can benefit from it, and we're not, robbing people. So that's the idea. We want to spread the joy.
And so what's in store for 2021 then? What's coming to the site?
So quite a lot. So we're kind of focusing a lot more on training, and it's going to be both Academy growing vastly and also our in-person training. So now that we have facilities in Madrid, we'll be training both on the continent and in the UK, as well as in the US, and it's going to be a mix of virtual and in-person training. We're building out our catalog, so we'll have more courses again through Web, Qlik and Qlik API. And what we're doing with Academy is we've recently launched what we're calling Websy Bites. So to fill in the gaps, these are short kind of videos that you'd find on YouTube. Some will be free, some will be part of a subscription. And what we're hoping for is to just have loads and loads and loads of tips and tricks coming out to help benefit the community. And then also we're going to be building a project space. So one of the big things I hear from literally everybody that comes into the world of web is, I don't want to just watch a course, I want to build something. So we're going to create a project space which will bring together all of the subjects, subjects from certain courses, and give you a set of requirements. So you go away with a set of requirements and it says, you need to watch course A, B, and C to have the fundamentals of how to build this. And through all of this as well, you can have access to us on Slack. So we're here as people as well. It's not just, you're on your own, pay your subscription, you're on your own. We're kind of there all of the time as well.
Cool. I look forward to seeing that. You're getting quite a bit of love in the comments, both for your Giphy presentations and the API courses are excellent, Leslie says. So fantastic. Good.
Awesome.
Brian, Andrew, back to you guys.
Thanks, George. Yeah, Nick, can I ask you, how do you keep on top of the differences between Qlik SaaS and Qlik Client Managed in terms of the APIs that are available on the two platforms? It must be quite a challenge for you guys to align your training and your academy courses.
Yeah, it is, and it's almost a full-time job, which was kind of the very first thing that we thought about when we set up the company was let's really focus on trying to stay up to date so that other people don't have to. And unfortunately for us, all of the acquisitions and new technologies that Qlik are creating makes our life a lot more difficult because there's far more to try and keep up with. So I would say that if I'm completely honest, when I left Qlik, I knew everything about all of the APIs and the products. And now I'm slowly falling further behind as we desperately try to keep up. And it's the same with the web, right? Every day there's something new on the web, and all we can do is try to focus on what we think is important. And we kind of do it on a demand basis. So the more that we see a demand for something, the more that we then focus on that particular area.
Okay, thank you. Yep.
Yeah, I think the only thing for me, Nick, really is just to agree on that last point, is that shooting for perfection in the world of APIs, you're going to be waiting a long time. So I think getting that metric where you can get a best fit is a really good thing to be able to be doing, and that's why I think your courses are, on Websy are really valuable, because it gets you to that point. And that's where a lot of the people on this type of call need to be able to push their skills to that level. So I think you're doing very valuable work. And thanks again for coming on the call, especially with man flu. I mean, must be hard for you.
I know. So. Just admirable. No, thank you guys. I really appreciate being invited back on. It's my pleasure.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we can have you back on next year at some point just to tell us how your plans are going.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
We need you to make an API call now and pick a random number. I don't know if you've got an API for that service.
I'll pretend I have, and I've just used it, and I'm going to go with 85.
85 is Diego Passato.
Diego Passato.
Congratulations, Diego. If you can stick your hand up in the chat, that would be fabulous. Carolyn will note your details down, and you are the recipient of
a 12-month subscription to Websy Academy, which based on the name, I don't know if I'm making assumptions. If you do happen to be Spanish speaking, that's another movement that we're doing now as well. Is all of our content is slowly being translated into Spanish as well.
Okay, fabulous. Thank you, Nick, for your presentation, and most importantly, picking the number that matters. So that's great, and we look to see you soon, mate. Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Nick.
All right. So this is going well so far, and it's back to me on the rotation now, and I have the pleasure. The absolute pleasure of introducing Susan Walsh, the classification guru, the Scottish classification guru who knows about WWE and Drew McIntyre and all of that good stuff. And she's got a data den and she's sparkly, and I don't think I need to say any more. I'm just gonna stop talking and say, Susan, go for it.
Hi everybody. So yeah, thanks for having me again. I can't believe I got invited back, so I must have behaved myself the first time. Everyone's been so prepared and organized, and I'm not going to lie, I'm just going to wing it today because it's been a long year and I like talking, so it's all good. Most people have had a pretty shitty year, to be honest, but I have been very, very fortunate that my business, my profile, my lip sync videos have all skyrocketed. None of which was planned for, but mostly I'm very thankful for all of that. Apart from the lip sync videos, now I'm getting requests, which is really bizarre. And I've been talking about dirty data and the dangers of it, and I've been doing that all year. And that's not any different when you're talking about Qlik and any data visualization, because it all starts with the data. Everything in the world at the moment is being made, decisions are being made on data, whether it's COVID, whether it's business, financial, personal information as well. And if that data is not right before you do your analytics and your visualization, then all of those decisions were going to be wrong. They're going to have an impact somewhere along the line. So it could be as small as you've accidentally typed too many zeros in a column, or it could be that you have renamed a supplier and you think you're spending X with it, but you're spending Y. And it can either have really small and unnoticeable consequences or really, really large ones. And I think that at the moment there seems to be a bit of it's kind of an emphasis on whoever's doing the visualization that they have to fix the data too, or the data scientist, the analyst, whoever. And actually I'm trying to make data cleansing, data classification, supplier normalization a proper role within its own right, because it takes a different kind of skill. And let's face it, you guys probably hate doing it. Not many people love doing it. I love doing it, but there's something wrong with me, that's why. So I want to get people thinking about it as a separate skill, as a separate task, so that we can get the best data for our analytics, for our charts, for our decision making, for our everything really. And I, again, accidentally came up with a really great way for people to actually apply those principles to any data set. Now, I'm quite an unusual place, because I didn't quite come from the data world and I didn't quite come from the procurement world, but I kind of fell into both of them, and I'm somewhere in the middle. So I'm trying to make data accessible to everybody. So you guys, you're all highly skilled in data analytics, etc. But the people that we really need to get the attention of are the people who are inputting the data, who are not necessarily technical, probably really intimidated by data and even the word, and probably don't have much of an interest. So a way around that is by telling everybody who works with data to make sure your data has its coat on. So that means making sure that firstly it's consistent. So do you have a common naming convention across the board within your data? Do you have a standard term for units of measure? So is it liters? Is it liter? Is it liters European or US spelling? Is it LTR? Is it L? Do you have a space between the number and the liters or not? You know, all those things can really mess up data and make what is one product into multiple products. And I'm sure you've all been there and know that. So it's really important that everybody works to the same standards. And it doesn't matter what that is, as long as everybody's doing the same thing. Because even if it's wrong, it's easy to change something that's all wrong and the same than one thing is wrong but has 5 different descriptions. So it makes your life a bit easier. And then it has to be organized. So what does that mean? Well, think about your wardrobe. So you've got your favorite sparkly Christmas top in there, as I know you all do, and you can't find it because you've thrown it in there for last year and you've not needed it for a year, so you've not bothered about it. So you're rummaging through your wardrobe, you can't find it. But if you had organized it into tops, trousers, dresses, even by color if you want, it would have been easy for you to just go in, pick out what you needed, and then you've got your nice sparkly top. So kilts as well. Sorry, forgot the kilts. How can I forget the kilts? Yeah, so data is exactly the same. So think about your data as if being in a wardrobe. The same principles apply. You can categorize your data by country, by region, by company division, by department, by business owner, by person, so that you can then go in and quickly pull out the information that you need. So that's what I mean by organized. And then of course it has to be accurate. Now we all know, we all work with data. It's very rare that you would ever get 100% accuracy in a data set. And if you did, it wouldn't last like that for very long because it's moving and changing all the time. So how, you know, a lot of businesses say, let's make sure it's fit for purpose. So by making sure that it's accurate, you're going to be able to trust the decisions that you're going to make. And that comes on to T for trustworthy. So without the consistency, without the organization, without the accuracy, you can't have trustworthy data. So you need all those things so that you can use that data, be confident in that data, and make sure that, you know, there are no mistakes that are made or minimize them. And also that makes it really easy for people who are not necessarily familiar with data to start working with it too. Now, I don't know if you've seen, but I have a number of little videos online. So I thought I would share one of those with you today, just to remind you of how you can remember those principles and how you can apply them and tell people about it and get people to start working with quote in their data. So I don't know if am I allowed to share my screen? Yes, I am. Wonderful. Right.
You wouldn't go out into sub-zero temperatures without the correct protection. So why do so many companies forget to protect their data? Unprotected data can lead to bad business decisions that cost money and put jobs at risk. That's why your data needs its coat on. This means making sure your data is consistent, organized, accurate, and trustworthy. Consistent means using the same standards, terms, and classifications company-wide. Organized data makes it easier to find. Think of it like a messy closet. It can be difficult to find what you're after, even when you know it's in there. When organized correctly, it becomes easier to find what we want. Data should be accurate, which can mean different things to different people, but at its most basic level, accurate data is correct. And finally, data should be trustworthy. This is critical. If your team can't trust the data, they might not use it. And business decisions around jobs, staffing, and budgets are all based on data, so it's got to be right. Like any coat, there are differences in the quality of data services out there. If you buy a cheap coat, it might not be waterproof or protect you enough, and it won't last more than one season. If you don't invest in good quality data services, you will end up paying twice as much, if not more in the long run, to fix the earlier mistakes. If you'd like to speak to an expert about data in your own business, visit theclassificationguru.com to find out more.
And of those of you that have seen a few of my videos will know that was the first one. So there's not a glass of Prosecco on the desk for that one, but there normally is. So yeah, if you apply those principles and really make sure that your data is accurate before you start working on it, it's going to save you so much more time in the long run. So imagine, you start building your dashboards, your reports, and then someone comes to you and goes, that's wrong. And then you have to spend hours, days, weeks fixing or finding the error that's caused it. So by investing that little bit of time at the start, it's going to save you so much effort and pain in the long run. So very much, Scott's got his coat on, brilliant. Make sure it's tartan. Yeah, so that's my winging it presentation today. I hope that you all have a wonderful Christmas. Thank you so much for your time, and yeah, make sure that data has its coat on.
Wise words from lots of angles there, Susan. I actually got a new coat last week, and I have to agree with you, it does make a massive difference when you have a good quality coat. So the same applies to your data. Yeah, it was great. It's great to have you back, Susan. You're a breath of fresh air, and I personally love the interaction between you and Scott. I think you're a great double act.
Oh, he's my buddy. Yeah.
I tell you who else is your buddy is Dalton. I remember that you had Dalton here. I think I was in stitches at one point between you two because you were great together. So
I mean, he's that bow tie is something else. I can't compete with.
It is something else. I think a few other people on this call will attest to that as well. So amazing, Susan. I hope you've got a little glass of Prosecco. I've got a confession to make that after this presentation, I'm going to get my beer because I'm just seeing Nick swigging away there, and I can't really wait any longer.
Yeah, I was holding off until I'd spoken. Now it's safe to get cracking the Prosecco.
Super. Thank you so much, Susan, for being one of our star guests today, and we look forward to having you back sometime soon as well.
Would love it.
Great. Thanks, Susan. Okay. So.
Sorry, Brian, do we want Susan to pick a number?
Oh, sorry, we do, yes.
Oh, yes.
No, yes. Oh, Susan, pick a number. Sorry, I'm just being, that's why I've got my co-captains here.
Put that Prosecco back in the bottle, Susan.
Yeah, that's it. Don't go yet. I turned 40 this year, and I mean, that was traumatic enough, but I also had to spend the day on my own because we were mid-first lockdown. So I think I'm going to go with number 40 because actually it's not been a bad year for me, so.
Number 40 is Steve Fuster.
Oh, congratulations, Steve. And what is your number represents what in terms of a prize, Susan?
Oh, yeah. Well, that would be helpful as well. So I have...
I forget the number, you forget the prize, and we're getting it.
I have a new course called the Basics of Data Cleansing. So it's about how to be more efficient in Excel. So it's, from beginners upwards. Hopefully there's something in there for everybody.
Excellent. Thank you, Susan, and congratulations, Steve. Carolyn, I'm sure, hopefully has got that all set down, so we'll get that sorted out as well. Thank you, Susan.
Thank you.
All right, so I probably gave my screen away a bit too early next, but again, I'm on handover duty here now. Andrew, I think it was you that selected Joe, was it?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
So I'm going to pass you over first of all, and then you can we can take it from there.
Thanks, Brian. Yeah, easy choice. Joe was a very popular presenter on a much earlier QVSM episode, I think way back probably in about April or May. I've known Joe and worked with Joe, and obviously Vizlib are a great product. I've been a fan of Vizlib visualizations for many years, and I had the pleasure of working with Joe in the LinkedIn Live session with Qlik CEO, where we did the Mercy Ships event earlier in the year. That was an awesome launch of that series. So yeah, Joe's got some great tips on visualization, and he's always entertaining as well. So I'm sure Joe will entertain us for the next 10 minutes.
I'm just going to ask one of my co-presenters or Carolyn to spotlight on Joe, please, to make sure Joe's on the spotlight, because I've lost my host temporarily. So
we can stay on Susan. That's great too. I don't.
Yeah. If you can lip sync to Susan, then that would be absolutely incredible. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm just not going.
Okay, I'm going to take a page out of Susan's book as well and wing this, which is my mode of operandi for many of these types of sessions as a meetup. I was searching as everybody had a hat. The most festive hat I could find was my Qlik playground hat that I got years ago. It doesn't come in handy anymore where I just moved Florida. And that's going to factor into some of my my talk I have today with you all. So I'm happy to be here again. When you asked me to join for this last one, I was like, oh yeah, Donald and Susan and Scott and Mike are going to be here, and Webster, Webster's going. Sure, yeah, I'm going to be there. And they're like, oh no, we want you to present. Yeah, I just wanted to be here for the other speakers. So I'm happy to present some things. I will share my screen because I'm a visual person, and we'll go from here and just kind of have a little fun with this as best we can. You got a sneak peek of what I was trying to purchase after Donald was talking, right? Is that what we're seeing? Okay. Here's my, let's see if this will come across. This is my my perspective this year. You got the dumpster fire that was 2020, hopefully in the rearview mirror for you all. It's been a tough year, I think, for many different people. Mike really buttoned it up, I think, nicely, saying like we're in a really unique position with data and being more respected perhaps within your organizations. Because people are coming to you for answers because there were so many unpredictable things that happened this year. I'm leaving the dumpster fire. I have my my palm trees in the background now that I'm heading to. I moved my family from Madison, Wisconsin, which is currently under, I think, a foot of snow. That much, I can't convert that well. And down to Florida, where I see Laura's online and a few others in the Tampa area. I did a meetup there in Tampa while I lived in Wisconsin, and I fell in love with it. So I'm like, well, I need to do the meetup in Ireland, in Scotland, and all these other ones around the globe, and maybe make a little bit of a visit. So I'm bummed that I can't travel everywhere, but I tried to make the best of it, and I have my little guiding light of analytics and data to take us through. So I try to figure out what are the maybe 3 things that I thought were most interesting this year to come out of this mess. And one was, there's still a lot of reports out there. So we're going to talk about how reports maybe are just fundamental to what you all are doing. And yeah, it's not glitzy. It's not, the dashboards and visualizations that you might expect. But people are getting work done because we can give them more reports now. And I think all the other presenters touch on it too. If they're not trusted, if it's not organized the right way, these things will fail. So how can we make that better? Second one I thought was, there's a lot of boring dashboards and reports out in the world. How do we bring more character to things? So this is where I love to spend my time working with Qlik, is just kind of dreaming up things that I didn't think I could do before. I'm not as talented as like Nick and the team and going out and using the APIs, but I have I think a pretty wicked tool set at my disposal. And I'm not as creative as a person as maybe you all might think. I hear that. I steal a lot of things. I go out and research stuff. I watch movies, I play video games. I try to find things outside of the business world that maybe we could pull in and keep it interesting. And the last one is definitely this year's been about collaboration, coming together. And, it's always been like that for me in healthcare with organizations I've worked with. But this one was a global kind of collaboration that we had a part of, and many of you on the line were a part of as well. So the first one, reports, build it and they'll come. They'll probably ask for more reports. You mentioned Dalton earlier. He's got a lovely talk track on reports and the cycle of doom, and you're always going to have to keep feeding things to your customers, to your end users. So why not give them the ability to do it? So we take, what I think is a pretty fundamental part of Qlik, having your master items and dimensions, or even the tables that you all have worked you know, on the data model side, you get to this point, that blank canvas. What do you want to explore? So we tried to create in 12 seconds the fastest experience to get all of the data that you should trust into a nice, neat table that you can do self-service on. And with this, in 12 seconds, you have created a table, a pivot table. You can switch these buttons and do different visualizations. And yes, there's a little bit of that search or browser-based analytics that Donald was talking about, where you hit the microphone button or type in the question that you have, and it'll try to, out of the data, gather what you're meaning. It's not intelligent by any means. You have to have the right data fed in. But we actually think that's pretty important because, you know, how many of you have created a Qlik Sense app and then given it to somebody else, and they look through the data model and they don't know where to start? There's too many data elements in there. There's too many measures. These things don't mix and match because you can grab so much data. It's great, but sometimes it's chaotic. So we want you to help you to define what's in here. So if you miss that again, just because it's quick, 12 seconds, I think it's a record. Michael Nordstrom and his team created this technology all on top of Qlik. And a number of folks I think are familiar with this and have used it in their organizations. So yeah, it doesn't look that great maybe because you're just getting a table at the end of the day, but it's going to help people get those answers faster. To kind of build on that, something that's really important and a story that I want to share is, you know, we have a, they're effectively an OEM. So they take and embed Qlik in their product. They work in the healthcare revenue space, and we had them present with us a couple months back. They use this and Qlik to give their end users in a healthcare setting the ability to ask and answer questions really quickly, and they could not keep up with the requests that were coming in from you know, the financial office for, I need to see it like this, slice it and dice it different way. While they had Qlik, it was too overwhelming for them to do self-service that way. So they have categorized the data elements, measures, and metrics, and they said that, you know, this type of technology in their product is the reason why they're using Qlik. They could have built this in something else. They could have just stayed with, you know, a Microsoft reporting tool type of thing. But this gives the flexibility and the governance that they needed in their organization. So they can monitor this. They have all the power of Qlik behind the scenes, but people can ask and answer their own questions on a governed data set within an app. So there's been a lot of tremendous work to this. We call it the custom report through Vizlib for Qlik Sense. Anybody can try it out. It's up to 5 users for free. It's fun to get into. I actually use it to help build applications quickly because, as you saw at the beginning, you can build these things out. And if you right-click on any of these visualizations while you're going, you can send it to a new sheet in your application and then keep building upon it. So that's what I have for reports. I think they're, you know, tables are sometimes the most important things you may have in your applications. But what do people want to do? They want to export, filter, do different things, take columns in and out. And so give them that experience inside of Qlik where we know it's a lot faster and more secure than, you know, exporting to Excel. The next one, I'm definitely guilty of this, you know, my attention is at TikTok levels. Sometimes if it doesn't catch my attention, I'm off looking at something else. So one of my jobs at Vizlib is make our dashboards look great. Let's take our technology and push it. So just some examples of things across the year. I was thinking about this. Kobe Bryant, when he passed away earlier in the year, was like, it was personally, but it was like the worst thing that happened at that point in the year. And people were sad, the news was covering it. Little did we know, like, the world would be turned upside down and how much people would be craving sports to come back for some sense of normality. But it was one of the first ones, and I'm like, I'm onto something here. It was different. It gave people a reason to maybe look at data a little bit different way and have some fun with it. So I get to create these things. And, you know, when you're putting analytics out in front of an executive and they have mere seconds to look at something, wouldn't you want it to be something engaging, something that they want to come back to and have fun with? I had to blur out some numbers, but, you know, we work with a large entertainment company and they absolutely love that they can bake their story, their ways of telling stories and character-driven development into the data that they present to their executives. So on this one, you click on the web slinger here, he drops down, he actually will tell you stuff about the numbers, something interesting. And nothing is a mashup. That's what I love. We can build these things really quickly and have fun with it. I think it's just getting out of that mindset that a dashboard has to look a certain way. I break a lot of rules. I learn things all the time, and I work with our designers to take things apart, and they'll tell me this red and blue on the colors, it might match their scheme, but it's not great for consuming the data very quickly. But you can bend the rules, I think, because if people are going to come back, I see Rob's on the line as well. Rob's great with this, like putting dark mode in apps and making it really fun and engaging. It goes a lot further. It goes a long way in your organization if you can make them fun. Kind of a preview of something that recently released that I'm having a lot of fun with is what we call tiles. And it's these, we're going out to websites and looking at how they display information. And these tiles will allow you to take what would have typically been just a table of data, the car, the horsepower, the rating of it, all the things in a big table, but make it visual. And so it's effectively a table of data, just highly visualized. We're taking and changing the filters up. I know it's heresy, but we've changed the green, white, and gray because we wanted to match this particular organization's branding. So now it's purple, white, and gray. Sorry, Carolyn and Jillian. But it gives a way to explore something. This is what their website used to look like. And now it's all inside of a really powerful analytical application with the ability to take actions, dive in, see details, compare and contrast. So we're starting to have a lot more fun with the way people experience applications as well, not just the visual side of things. And then, really this concept of we're all in this together. Angelica's on the line. I can see her face on the other screen here. And, I know that I can reach out to many of you, and this community has really come together in some awesome ways over the year that has been a really terrible year for many and given us a reason to connect. So I think Jillian was the one on the line that helped me she created the COVID-19 community on Qlik. And these are just some of the screenshots of apps that initially were sent to me because we were sharing, we were posting about this stuff. And it was like, I can't keep up with it. We just need a whole community. To see this type of development come out here, people pushing the boundaries of what they could do because they had access to a large public data set. We saw so many varieties, and I think people upped their game significantly in visualizations and dashboards and ultimately data literacy. We've all seen those big numbers and they just keep growing, right? There's no context around it. So we're using our skills to take this stuff apart and maybe make a little bit more sense of what's going on in the world, whether it's COVID or in the US, it's like election data and things like that. So I was super pleased to see the kind of outpouring of the community. And now we have things where people are like, what are we going to do in 2021? Or how are we going to push this? Not just the historical data. One of the folks, Michael Laverick, sent over this really interesting social distancing app, and I was able to take it apart and play with it. And we collaborated a little bit on, maybe a retail store has a system now with cameras that can sense where customers are in a store, getting that data. And then if these two customers are next to each other, alert the manager and say, there's people breaking social distancing. They can get on the PA, the manager should announce to the customers, hey, you're over in the chips and candy aisle, you're a little close. You actually didn't come into the store together, so we know you're probably not related. But having these tools and using data could help businesses open up perhaps in a more safe fashion. He has a version of this, I think, for restaurants as well, which is, indoor dining is still fairly risky in a lot of areas in the world, but people are going to do it. So we want to help restaurants do that in a more safe fashion. And that's every table has a timer that's going down and the manager will be alerted. This table of 10 people has been here for more than 60 minutes. Maybe that doesn't make that much sense in Italy and things where you in France where you eat for 2 hours, 3 hours. In America, we eat like in 7 minutes and you're out. So we didn't really have that problem too much, but these are interesting solutions, and having Qlik behind the scenes is really fun to see these programs come out. Which brings me to another one that maybe a few of you caught. Angelica Kalias, who's on the line from 2Focus. We've been working together on healthcare solutions for years. Always happy to work on things. This is a Dutch version, but there's also an English version of an application that is multi-purposed. You have, you're signing in doing contact tracing, right? That Donald was talking about, but maybe it's on a tablet or an iPad. You're going to visit a new business, collect that information. It's very important that it's secure, that the next person coming in can't see your information, things like GDPR and privacy, but then having the data immediately fed in so that the team can come in and see who's visiting who, how many people do we have in for training today, because somebody could come back and say, I actually found out I was positive for COVID. Can you help me contact all of those people that I may have unintentionally exposed? And this is the solution that they built. She's thankfully made this available for free. You know, she's put her contact information there too. She'll send it to you, and we'll give you the Vizlib stuff as well, because there's this form that's collecting the data on the fly. I see these things from time to time. I'm like, I absolutely love what we're able to do with data and really change, you know, make things better. It's not all gloom and doom like we see in many of those COVID dashboards. And the last one is something that you know, in the same vein of capturing the data, this is a clinical trials application that, you know, has grown and tweaked over the months, this really, really long year, and is in use by pharmaceutical companies to help find the vaccines that are being released now, thankfully. And healthcare organizations too they're running these studies, these clinical studies within their walls, and they need the ability to be really agile in the data that they collect. Like Susan was saying, there might be a new way of, you know, recording that this is a phase 2/3 study, and that data element didn't exist before. So now we're having the nurses put that information in, and it becomes more consistent. So we're building in data quality, and this all in all is helping people to do their jobs better, faster, with the power of data behind the scenes. I can't sleep sometimes thinking about, and we need to get this in the hands of more people so they can do these things. And things like even financial and budget adjustments. So you got your nice P&L report, but what if, you know, the business themselves can actually do the auditing or the budgeting rather, and the adjustments, and have this capability in their hands so that it's not tossing stuff over the fence, as we say, I need the new data, oh, clean this stuff up, change this line. We're giving the power to these people in the Qlik Sense, you know, framework. And this stuff has really opened up a lot of new opportunities, I think, for the way we're going to use data. So my theme and my hope for 2021 as I wrap up is I try to come up with an acronym, CCLA. I try to figure out if I could make it like cola, C-O-L-A. I don't drink a lot of soda, but I'm not sure if anybody knows what this is where I'm going, because I just created it last night. I don't think anybody could guess it. But I don't think it's trademarked. So I'm thinking I really want a collaborative closed loop analytics to be the theme and my hope for 2021. So it's not just, here's your dashboard, those are your numbers, good luck. I think if it's not part of a process, it doesn't matter. So let's action that data together. There's all kinds of things we can do with this stuff now, and we're starting to see a lot of those really interesting use cases that take us out of the mindset of dashboard development and into application workflows, processes. And this is where the rubber meets the road. So with that, my contact information, let's associate. You know, there's my clicky kind of background, geeking out. Happy holidays. I hope you all stay well, stay safe, and let's get creative. Thanks for having me again.
Well, thanks, Joe. That social distancing app was really, that was awesome. The ideas behind that and the business applications that could change as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm happy to, as many of you know, anything that you see, I'll send it to you. I'm an open book on this stuff. So if we can collaborate, that's where I can't do this by myself. I love sharing these things and be happy to share your story as well.
I think actually, Joe, to Michael Laverick as well, another luminary in the community here. I've played a lot of games of pool with Mike in the past.
Yes.
But he's also built a pretty incredible app to simulate Championship Manager, which is quite an iconic soccer football game in the UK. The text-based football game, Championship Manager, and he built that in Qlik CEO, and I was blown away by it. And when I saw some of the hockey grids on there, it just made me think of the the plotting and that type of concept being used to literally map how the players were moving around in a pitch, as little dots with coordinates and animation. That was incredible stuff. So good shout out to
we should work on that.
well.
Stuart mentioned we need to see that app. We should get it from Michael and have version 2.0.
Oh yeah, Qlik sense it and make it like Championship Manager 2020, and we'd love to see it. I'm sure I can see Joran smiling in the background there at the thought of that. So
that's great.
Joe, that was incredible. I love the variety that you bring to us. It's never just like, here's a topic. It's like, here's all the fingers and all the pies that we have. And it's very honest and it's very authentic. And like you say, there are a lot of people out there that still need convincing that visualization needs to be more than just tables, right? And more than just pivot tables. There's a lot of people out there that still need convincing. So the work that you do is very, very important. And just a great big thank you from us. And I don't know where you busted out that playground hat from, but I don't have one. And I need to work out who I can get one from now. So I do have some playground stuff, but I don't. Maybe I'm looking at Websy actually. Maybe he's got one stocked away somewhere.
They have to have it. We have to look on eBay.
Do you know what? I don't have one of those, but what I do have that probably no one else does is a Qlik branch tablecloth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Useful, as you can imagine.
Well, there we go. It is useful, and I'm sure you'll agree that the sixth session of today has been more than useful. So thank you to our own resident playground elf, Joe Warbington, for his presentation. Yeah, that was tremendous. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Do you want to pick a number, Joe, before we switch over?
Oh yes, and the mystery box. I truly have no idea what's going to be in it. Just basing on some of the things we get. We know we have notebooks, pens, and things like that. But I'm not sure if everybody knew that Martin Mahler decided we should get into the juice business, apparently. So we have created our own brand of a bright drink. I think they're popular over on your guys' side of the pond. It has apparently 40% more caffeine than coffee does. So he said, be very careful with this. I'm hoping we have some extra bottles and we'll get that in the box too.
Some people might need that at the end of this mammoth session, Joe. So pick a number and go for it.
Let's do, the people that signed up late, I think, I appreciate that. What was the top end number was 167, Caroline, is that
167, right? Yeah.
Okay. Let's go for that one. The last person to sign up, they're a little bit like me, a procrastinator, but I'm glad you're here because this must be like your first episode. So hopefully you'll come back.
Okay, the winner is Mike Bergman. Mike Bergman.
Awesome. I'll get your contact info, Mike.
Congratulations, Mike, and we'll get Carolyn and Joe to correspond on getting that Vizlib mystery box that still no one knows what's inside. So it's going to be a real surprise for everyone when it turns up. Thanks again, mate. Appreciate that. That was awesome. So, well, I think we're doing fantastically well here. I do apologise. We are running a little bit over, but I think that's okay. And we're on. I'm glad you're all still here. And we've got one very important guest to finish with. And I'm going to hand over to George on this one as well.
Yeah, we knew it was going to happen, didn't we? How did we ever expect to cram all this into 2 hours? But Yeah, without further ado, Rob, thanks so much for waiting 2 hours for your time in the spotlight. Rob was on, again, we should have this listed down. There's some notes for next year, some lessons learned. But Rob was on within the last couple of months, giving us a fantastic insight into how the NHS was using artificial intelligence and Qlik to forecast future demand on their services. It was a fascinating session. Really pleased you said yes to coming back on again, Rob. And I'll hand straight over to you and listen to what you've got to say.
Perfect. Thanks, George. Hope you can hear me. My mic's been playing up. You can. I think you can.
Can do. Yeah.
Yeah. Delighted to be here. I'll try not to talk for too long, conscious of time. I've got a few things to share. I mean, yeah, it's great. So it's great to be back and fascinating talks. And yeah, what a year. What a year to be working in the healthcare space. I've worked in healthcare in analytics, in data for since 2003. I'm like all the time in the acute sector, so in hospitals, predominantly in a number of different hospitals around the UK. So I just thought really I'd talk about kind of following on from talking about machine learning and sort of analytics, just what's been really important to us from a sort of Qlik and data perspective since March in particular, and really it's also what's going to those are the themes which are going to continue to be super important in terms of helping us support the kind of recovery phase as we sort of move towards vaccination, move towards recovery services. I think people are very much aware of, probably as possibly as patients or certainly as citizens who may have themselves or have family members who are interacting with the care system, for things which have got nothing to do with coronavirus. There's a massive backlog, and it's the effects are going to be with us for a long time. But at the same time, we can do so much with data. So that's what I'm going to talk about. So four areas really for me. First one is what I always think to talk about and do like talking about is command centers, or what I'd probably call mission control, because I can't really emphasize enough how having the capability to present real-time predictive analytics so that people can make decisions was so important during the pandemic. So I think the importance of working in this space, and for any healthcare system that isn't in this space, I don't know how they're going to cope during the pandemic. So it was really important. What we termed the command center quickly became the COVID command center, and is still today staffed 7 days a week by clinical and operational staff, and they're running the business of patient care live, and they're running it a lot of it from Qlik analytics, and it's really good to see. We've also had as part of that, we transitioned into using Qlik to drive a live bed state, and I'll just flash up an example of that. Everything COVID is driven through it. From live screen data to live results data to live patient tracking around the hospital and the wider health system, and to particularly at the start, in March when things were moving so quickly, and it was also new and difficult to understand. So hard to understand what was happening with the spread of infections. Geoanalytics, so we did a lot of geoanalytics, particularly back then, less so now because we're in a very much sort of different phase of what's happening with the disease. So Qlik now is, Qlik always was, but now is very much at the center of what's happening within our healthcare organization, and it's really embedded within workflow. And I think we've seen our user numbers grow massively, and they're still growing month on month. So we're getting groups of staff, particularly clinical staff, nurses, AHPs, doctors, who perhaps were the more difficult staff members to reach in terms of analytics. They're some of our biggest user groups now. Some of our apps which are in use, particularly the one which tracks live patients, a live count, how many patients are in the hospital who are either screening suspected positive or confirm positive diagnosis, where they are, who's treating them, which patients they need. That's our most used app, and that was developed in March at the response. And I think really the big the reason why it's been so popular, and the reason why we've got Qlik apps, embedded within what the clinical teams are doing every day. So they're using Qlik Sense apps to audit patients, to check whether a patient has an alert on our EPR or EHR for people from the States, and to cross-reference that against, check patients been screened, have they been screened, have they had a result yet, is the result still pending, are they in hospital, are they in the community, are they back home? We just didn't have a way to record that sort of information in March, so we used so we were able to stand up apps to augment our clinical systems, and they're still being used now, and they're absolutely mission critical, and it's that's kind of really changed our focus to being really workflow focused. Just a quick mention, this may not mean too much to people who are outside of healthcare, but the concept of having a live electronic bed state within healthcare is really difficult. So I don't think there are that many organizations who've achieved it. Perhaps some of the really advanced sort of high HIMSS level organizations will have in States or in Spain or in places like that, but it is really hard. And I was sort of stared down in a committee meeting about 4 years ago by an ex-chairman now of the organization saying, I've worked in digital healthcare for 25 years, and no one's ever been able to deliver a live bed state, and you won't be able to do it. So I think you're wasting your time. But we have done, and that's a really big win. So in terms of a safety perspective, the staff know exactly which patients are in which beds 100% of the time, and we're driving a lot of analytics through that. And we've done that because we've put Qlik right in front of the clinicians, right in front of the bed managers, and they're utilising the tools we're giving them. And it just makes it a lot safer. And we've eradicated paper. People used to run around with bits of paper. I've got 4 patients on this ward. I've got 1 empty bed on this ward. It doesn't happen. It's driven via our analytical command center and some other apps as well. So that kind of leads on to augmentation as my other kind of priority area. What has been and what it was going forward. And I think this really nice segue from what Joe was talking. Joe's the kind of master of the idea of augmenting apps so that they do more. Just bend what an app does, make it into a solution rather than just something for reporting from. So I think I won't talk too much about this. Joe's done a great job. Alerting is super important for us. Right back is being able to develop custom extensions and go mobile. One example though, which I think is really interesting, which we can see that because of my the bar at the top, is how we're using alerting in real time to drive clinical interaction with patients. So this is a bit of a complicated graphic, but what it's trying to show is a patient arrives at the hospital, ambulance or walk-in. On arrival, they are, it's not known probably whether they are asymptomatic, COVID positive, or COVID, or COVID positive with symptoms. They may have arrived for treatment for COVID or just for something else. It could have been in a road traffic accident or something. So they're screened on arrival. The screening data from the screening system obviously fed into database, and then within seconds we're surfacing that information through our command center app, Qlik Analytical Command Center, and we're also firing that into an app we've set up to manage the alerts for patients who are COVID positive. So a patient is screened, the results are processed, an alert gets generated from this app, and then it fires off to our bed managers. So we have a number of people who are employed to manage patients in beds around the wards, a number per hospital. They get alert on their mobile phone, and they immediately are able to take action. So they understand this patient was suspected COVID positive. They are now COVID positive. Are they in the right place? Have they got the right hygiene arrangements? Are people wearing the proper PPE and so on? So that's, I hope a really good, real life example of how real-time analytics, with augmentation, with alerting, is being used to manage patients. And that we just weren't doing that 9 months ago. It's really valuable. I talked about this last time around machine learning, and we're spending a lot of time now looking at machine learning and NLP as well, and looking at how we can use that to not just try and predict what's going to happen in the future. Predicting is fine, but the kind of the basis of why we're doing it is we want to change the future, change how healthcare is delivered before it happens, and that and that's about thinking about what can we predict, what interventions can be taken in the management of either that patient or that cohort of patients to change something based on the analysis we're able to do to improve an outcome, reduce spend, reduce variance, that type of thing. So we're having great success. We're using Data Robot, brilliant integration with Qlik through the APIs, and we're looking at a number of areas. Flow of patients, population health is a really biggie. I'll show you an example of that. Frailty, and that's a really big pressure area, globally, as more of us are moving towards frail older age categories. And we're looking at efficiencies in outpatients, will a patient attend an appointment or not. We know we can predict within about 85%, whether a patient will show or not. So then how do we change the way that patient contacts are undertaken digitally to intervene with that? How do we get better efficiency within theatres, and how do we recover from coronavirus, et cetera, et cetera. Bit of example, a good example I think of this is around population health and hypertension. So this is a model we've built, which is looking at patients who are not known to the health system, who we predict are at risk of developing hypertension. So we're joining together data from primary care, integrating it with acute data sets from within the hospitals and community data sets as well. So we've got a really, a good data set. We understand, things about the patients, their comorbidities, their weights, their habits around smoking, drinking, etc. And we can predict really clearly around who we think is at risk. And we're currently going through the process of running a clinical trial. So there'll be home blood monitoring kits procured, and they'll be assigned to those patients. And there's a Qlik app at the bottom, which is predicting who's at risk. Potentially really valuable. And finally, I don't think you can mention Qlik at the moment without mentioning SaaS. We've moved to Qlik SaaS recently, and we're really excited by the possibilities that's going to bring. And particularly for us, I was just sort of talking about, I think it really allows us to increase our reach in terms of the sort of geographical spread of the areas we're able to support through analytics. So we integrate data for our region, and we need to get that data set into the cloud through cloud-based data warehousing. And then we're looking now, and in fact, I was in a meeting this morning where I got approval to deploy apps, much wider and much deeper into our wider healthcare system. And we can only really do that through something like Qlik SaaS. It was always a bit difficult, to deal with the technical domains and architecture and things before. So I think, positives for us, we can move at scale, and we can really focus on some of the bigger, longer term problems around population health. And that was it. That was what I was going to talk about.
Wow, I think that hit the mark, Rob. There was a lot of very positive comments on the chat. In fact, the chat blew up there. It seems there's an awful lot of people that love what you do, me included. It sounds like it's been what a year it's been for you. What is your reach across the UK? So obviously, we're for some of the people that aren't well versed on how the UK is split up. We're Scotland, England, Wales, and Northern Ireland. Do you cover all areas of Scotland? All areas of the UK with the work that you do?
No, I mean, there's a northwest area of the UK. So yeah, around for those who know, it's in sort of South Cumbria, Northern Lancashire. So that sort of integrated care system region supporting. But I talk to people a lot, and I guess picking up on some of the previous comments around collaboration. If coronavirus taught us anything, it's in the power of working together. Yes. So yeah, and I think that's what interests me. How do we share solutions, lift and shift, solutions, ideas? I think that's really important. And some good collaboration, with parts of Scotland, NHS Tayside, Jenny, who was on, but I'd like to collaborate more in Scotland. Actually, it's
yeah. And how was this move away from, or how did you manage this move away from paper? So my wife is a nurse, and the last 30 minutes of every shift, she spends writing notes, writing handover notes. And it seems mad to me. The first 30 minutes of every shift, she spends reading notes, and the last 30 minutes writing notes. And it just seems so embedded in the NHS's modus operandi. How did you move them away from that?
So having a really clear, broader digital strategy, particularly focused around an EPR. So I guess track care probably is probably what she uses in Scotland. So I think we got a lot of value out of making sure our analytics was part of that sort of transformational digital journey, and so that's important. And I think some of it was. We just exposed where the problems were. I don't think, don't be scared to embarrass an organisation around some of its failings. I think that's my kind of learning and advice. And I think Qlik's a really good way of doing that. Don't try and hide where the problems are.
Yeah, well, it genuinely is inspiring work, and I think you can expect more invitations from us over the course of 2021. I'll hand over to Andrew and Brian, who I'm sure have got a couple of questions as well. But thank you so much, Rob.
Thanks, George. Yeah, just from my perspective, I'll keep it short, just conscious of time, but this was the highlight for me personally of the event. It was just seeing real human use of data analytics. I think you guys, because you got a big shout out from the government for the work that you're doing, because it's pretty inspiring. And I think the whole Qlik community and beyond should be recognizing you for the work that you and your teams are doing, because it's life-changing. Yep.
I think I would echo what Andrew and George have said there, that word that you used, the most important word that I think you used there, Rob, was accountability. And public accountability for this type of use of analytics. I think this is really what we're all trying to achieve. I mean, some of us sit here and build P&Ls in the background, and that is important. It helps the finance world tick over or whatever, but this is what we're really talking about in terms of use case. And I can't think of anyone in the room that wasn't touched by what you've just been through in terms of the way that this affects people's lives in the day-to-day. And I see a couple of very forthright comments saying that you should be in a loftier position than you are already, Rob. So I think that tells you everything about that you need to know in terms of the respect that you have from this arm of the community. We value everything that you do, and it's an absolute pleasure to have you here. And please do not take the fact that you were last on as any kind of read that you were not the most important, because you are. So thank you for everything that you do. I appreciate that's nothing to do with Qlik particularly, but just a wholehearted thank you for everything that you, and a shout out to Jenny as well, who was who unfortunately couldn't make it today, but great work, great work.
Rob.
Well, I think that was sensational, frankly. So I'm struggling to move on from that a little bit, but I will. I'm just going to share my screen again just to kind of tail off, because I know that we are running over. Thank you for we've still got over 50 people in the call, which is astonishing considering that we've been running for over 2 hours now. So thank you so much. And I think that it is important to say that I think if you can, everyone can put their camera on if they have it for just a second and just applaud the people that have been presenting for you today. This has been no mean feat, and I think they all deserve it. So if for a moment you can do that, that would be absolutely incredible, so that the presenters know how much you appreciate them. For those of you that have stuck, all 50 of you through the whole way, incredible stuff. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We cannot do it without you, and we appreciate it more than you know. So for Mike, Donald, Scott, Nick, Joe, Rob, Susan, thank you for everything that you've done for us today. It's just been an awesome thing to be part of it and at the head of, so thank you.
I just say thank you because, you, George and Andrew have created this little community. So thank you to you. You've given us this opportunity.
Well, that is That is kind, Susan. We are humble in the most humble way that humble can be, and we don't have anything without you guys. But we certainly, I think I speak for Andrew and George to say that we appreciate those comments also. It's been a tough year, and to run 15 of these in a tough year has been a tough task, and a tough task that couldn't have been undertaken with a smaller team than we have already. So that means a lot. And if it sounds like I'm welling up a bit, it's because it has been a hard year, and this is something that we do not take for granted from any perspective. So thank you very much. We appreciate that. So I guess the last just wrap up, because I know that it's 5 o'clock. We're getting towards the last real working Friday before Christmas. Everyone's got things to do, so we're not going to pin you to dates in the new year, but we do want to point out a few little things. Our next meetup will be in January 2021. Obviously, we've had a great list of speakers here. We will continue that into the new year, but we're going to give ourselves a bit of a break while we work out our dates and our tech. We sort of did some experiments with streaming tech today, which I think I've been testing, and we've been doing pretty well on the various platforms. So we might look to adopt that full time, but we will keep you all posted on that. If you aren't following us already, please hashtag us up at Qlik Meetup Scotland on LinkedIn. That's where you'll get most of the vibes that we're sending out. If you're on a mailing list, great as well. And I don't think we've actually ever explicitly pointed this out, but we do have a website, qlikmeetupscotland.co.uk, that George especially has put a power of work into to getting all the videos and all descriptions of all the past sessions up. I don't think you'll find any Qlik meetup in the world that is as well organized as ours is in terms of the content that you can access afterwards. So a big shout out to George and Andrew for helping to get that together as well. And aside from all of that, I just want to wish you an amazing festive period, whatever that happens to be. If it's Christmas, great. If it's something else, fantastic as well. And I'm just going to shunt it over to George to say a final few closing words, and then Andrew as well. George?
Well, I'm going to keep it very brief. That was a fantastic session. I think, 2.5 hours we managed to keep going for. Thank you so much to everybody that stayed on for that length of time and listened to all these fantastic presenters, listened to us droning on in between them. It's you guys that make this what it's been this year. So from me and from the, I know I'm speaking on behalf of Brian and Andrew as well, thank you so much. We could not do it without all of the support we get from you lot. And have a fantastic Christmas and New Year.
Thanks, George. Yeah, 100% agree. I'll keep it short. Yeah, obviously credit to all 7 speakers from Mike Capone through to the end there. We heard the exceptional story of the NHS heroes from Rob. Yeah, appreciate 100% the contribution everyone makes. This is your community as much as ours, and we look forward to taking this forward next year. So again, just to repeat, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and please stay healthy and safe over the festive period. We'll see you next year.
Thank you, everyone. We love you and respect you, and we hope to see you in 2021 after an incredible festive period. So thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a great weekend.
Bye.
Bye all.
Everyone.